I'm Pete Griffiths from Toolroom. Welcome to the Toolroom Academy room here at BDME. This is our third year at the Berlin Dance Music event. We're really excited to be back. Every time we come back, the community just keeps growing, the energy. So yeah, really pleased to be back. Thanks for having us. Now, today we've curated a full day of educational content designed specifically for new and emerging artists. Now, whether you're trying to build a loyal fan base, get more gigs, or run powerful professional release campaigns, we've built this program to give you real practical tools that you can use in your careers right now to help you guys move forward. We've also got a really cool highlight in the day today. We've got a live interview with Pan Pot, which I think is going to be absolutely amazing. True legends of the Berlin scene and real pioneers and innovators in underground music. And we're introducing something brand new for the first time at Toolroom Academy Live. We're doing an Instagram feedback session, which is going to be really, really cool here live. Social media is such a huge part of being an artist in 2025. You cannot get away from that. Now, if you guys want feedback on your profiles, what you can do is submit them today, and we'll give you feedback on your branding, on your content. So what you need to do is do an Instagram story here in this room, tag Toolroom Academy, and just put hashtag #InstaFeedback, and we'll pick you guys out and we'll give you live feedback here on the panel, on the screen, from some industry professionals. So I think that's a really cool thing that we'll be doing live on stage today. And then, of course, we'll be wrapping up with our live A&R feedback session. This is kind of our signature Academy way of signing off these sessions, where we listen to your music and we give you guys direct, honest feedback on your music to help you grow, help you move forward. We've had loads of demos submitted. We're hopefully going to get through all of those. So we're really looking forward to that as well. Now, for those of you that don't know, Toolroom Academy, we are the educational arm of the record label, Toolroom Records. We exist to help new artists grow, build sustainable, long-term careers in the music industry. We do in-depth production courses, we do mentoring, demo feedback, career support, and much more. And our programs are designed by working professionals, people who are working and successful in this industry right now. We live and breathe this industry every day, and we're super passionate about helping everyone. And now this year we've also launched a really exciting new artist development masterclass program in collaboration with Voltage Circus. Now this is a really deep diving experience for artists that are serious about taking the next step in their careers. It's part mentoring, part coaching, part industry access as well, and it's built around real outcomes. It's not just vague advice. We're working with some amazing artists at the moment. Many of you guys are actually in this room today. Now, we're here all day. Come and speak to us. Everything we do is built around helping artists like you guys, okay? Talk to each other, talk to us, submit your music, make the most of today. We're really excited to be here and meet you all as well, all right? So let's get started, shall we? Should we dive into our first panel? Okay, right, the first panel. This is the cold start problem. Building your first 5,000 fans. Now, building a fan base from zero, this is one of the hardest challenges that new artists face. Now, in this session, we're going to dig into some real strategies, breaking through the noise and turning casual listeners into real supporters. So can we have a real warm welcome for our panelists, please, for this session? Okay, to begin with, could you guys just introduce yourselves to the room, please?
Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Miles Shackleton. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Toolroom and co-founder of the Toolroom Academy. Pete gave a great overview of the Toolroom Academy there. A bit more about Toolroom Records. So we were founded in 2003 by DJ producer Mark Knight, and over the years we've built Toolroom, I think, to be one of the bigger brands in electronic music. Best-selling label on Beatport for 2 years in a row now. Thank you. But beyond that, we're also really passionate about helping new artists break through, and that's something I've been very proud working with a lot of amazing students over the years for the Toolroom Academy. So I think today's discussion is super important, that cold start, how we get to that first initial fan base. So will be a good chat.
Hi, I'm Grahame Farmer. For the last 17 years, I've run a website called Data Transmission. It's a blog and online magazine. And then for the last 10 years, I've been developing artists and helping with essentially growing from their social media, from Instagram to SoundCloud to Spotify, through my YouTube and through my artist development program. And recently, I'm now a #1 Amazon selling author, #1 selling author for my new book on Instagram growth through artists. Thank you.
My name is Farah Syed. I'm originally from the UK, born and raised, and I moved to California when I was 16 with family. So I've worked, and now Berlin, almost 8 years, 7.5 years actually. So I've worked majority of my career in the US, in Los Angeles and Berlin. I started my career 18 years ago at WME. I kind of was really responsible for creating the artist brand division there. So I worked with people like Taylor Swift, Rihanna, Lady Gaga from the beginning when they had really no fans, and was really involved in the brand partnerships. And after that, moved into artist management and still kind of always connected with the electronic music scene, and worked on a lot of brand partnerships for different agencies and consulting in this space. Then lost a lot of inspiration and creativity in Los Angeles and decided that I wanted to move to Europe. So I did, and Germany was that place. I had never been to Germany before, but I took a leap of faith and it worked out well. I worked at Beatport for almost 5 years. I wore many different hats there across label management, creative services, artist relations, marketing, and then eventually led press and communications for the company, and also industry relations, so working with a lot of conferences and things like this. And then now I'm working in an agency that is a globally leading agency for sound design. So we work for a lot of brands, and we create their sound design, sonic branding, and any kind of music components. So some of our clients are MasterCard, Uber, Mercedes-Benz, to name a few. So, yeah.
Amazing stuff. I think we should get a round of applause just for the wealth of experience going on here across this panel. All right, let's dive in. Farah, let's start with you. Okay,
Sure.
Let's start from the very beginning. So,
Yes.
even before thinking about branding, thinking about social media, where should an artist begin? What questions should they be asking themselves at the very, very start?
Yeah, I think that's a really great and important question. I think it needs to be asked a lot more. I think that really what's key from what I've seen in the most successful artists, there's always this kind of one core foundational element that's really authenticity. It's not like just a buzzword. It really is true. It's what brands look for. It's what labels look for. It's what people generally, it's what connects audiences, right? Is if you're authentic in who you are. People like Charlie XCX, Lady Gaga, all these great artists like Avicii, Swedish House Mafia, Deadmau5. I've worked with all these artists. They truly have their own brand and authentic to who they are. So I think asking questions like, who am I outside of the music? What do I care about? What do I believe in? Do I care about mental health? Do I care about diversity? Do I care about sustainability? Who is the person that I want to show to the world? Like, what are my values? What do I care about? I would say asking all these questions is quite important because it really builds that foundation that people will get to know the real you, which later translates into building long-term rapport with your audience.
I guess also, like, where do you want to go as well? Where do you want to, what do you actually want to achieve? Like, is your goal, you want to DJ loads of gigs? Is your goal, you want to be a producer, you want to sit in your bedroom, you want to make music, but you want people to hear that music? Like, that's a different goal, essentially, to, I want to play gigs. So then it's where you're picking your platforms and where you're picking your strategy depends on what that process looks like forward. Like, and there's other ways. Do you want to work in you want to be a DJ, but you also just want to work in the industry, and it's like you're behind the scenes, or you want to run a label. These are all slightly different goals and slightly different strategies and slightly different platform alliances, depending on where you want to get to. And if you're young and you want to go and tour the world, that could be a different goal to you're 45 and you've got kids and a family, but you want to DJ maybe twice a month, or maybe you just want to make music and you want people to hear it. Your strategies are going to be completely different, and therefore watching someone that's touring the world is not going to be firstly healthy for you, but also it's the wrong strategy for you to kind of lay into,
Totally, and from the record label perspective, I'd say another foundational question before starting socials is, do you know where you're going musically? Because whilst I think in this day and age, people quite like to see you document the journey of that creative process, I think if you start social without knowing, your target labels, who your kind of reference tracks are, who are the kind of DJs that you want to be playing your music, it's hard to really land on the right branding to start with. So I think having that kind of embracing that creator phase as well. You don't have to start straight away. You can take a minute, take a breath, and just really be creative and do that first. And then another foundational question for me is, are you kind of ready to show up every day? Because it's not going to come, 5,000 fans won't come from one viral moment. It comes from, I think, just attrition, really. You've got to take some failures, learn from them, but keep showing up and keep pushing hard. So being ready to push like that.
Yeah, I was going to say consistency is key in the beginning, because people will look to you and say, oh, I was waiting for that studio jam, or I was waiting for that, viral moment, or, well, not viral moment, but I was waiting for that thing that you do. Like the consistency, I think, also is important. It shows persistency, and I've noticed that with a lot of artists early in their career, there was always that one thing that you would look forward to. So try to use social media as a tool. Of course, it's not the only tool you should be using, but it's definitely important in this day and age. When I started 18 years ago, it was just such a different industry. So it's great now that people have access and resources right at their fingertips and can actually keep quite consistent.
Yeah, I go with consistent. I'm still trying to be consistent. Like for data
I know, it gets really hard, right? Doesn't it?
Yeah, we're 17 years in for data transmission, and I'm still nowhere where I want to get to, and I'm still going to hammer it every single day and push myself to do it every single day. And I've got a kind of foot off the gas when I'm not feeling it too much, but it's still consistent. And I've got a foot on the gas. It's tons of content, and it's tons of this, and it's tons of this, and it's tons of this. But every day I'm like, right, what am I going to do today? What is the plan for today, and what does that feed into the larger, wider goal of where I know I want to be?
So you're talking about like authenticity and consistency, and basically it's a shop window into who you are, right? You're showing people who you are and trying to be real about that. So let's talk about the brand side of things a bit, and that we're using that word brand. If artists are trying to define their brand, trying to think who they are, and trying to be real and authentic and not be kind of fake, like, how do you approach that? What's the things to do to avoid being fake, just having that authenticity?
Yeah, I think that, it's a lot of people, like the word branding itself, just in general, I think people tend to kind of steer away from it a little bit, but it's very important, because it's actually bringing clarity to like the essence of who you are. And that's really important. And I think that being consistent and doing, your rituals or whatever it is that that makes you feel true to who you are, is not going to come off as inauthentic. It's not going to come across as being fake. I would say that, you're kind of like revealing yourself when you're in the early phases of being an artist. You're putting out music slowly, or you're doing that one social media post, or you're, there's collaborations potentially with other rising artists. But whatever you're doing, you're peeling back the layers of who you are. And I think that in time then builds, and it shows the audience, the person that you want to become, but you have to keep it consistent. I would say that a lot of artists, what they'll do is that they'll kind of not keep as consistent, and then it becomes a bit fragmented, and then they kind of get lost in a sea of other DJs and artists. And the ones that really, it kind of goes back to the authenticity, the people that really truly have asked these questions, that know who they are, that know what they want to put out into the world, that sets them apart, those are the people that stand the test of time. And I've seen this because I've worked with them, and they're still around 18 years later. It's because those questions were asked from the beginning. And you have to remember, all these big artists that I named, they all started at 0 fans. I've seen, Alesso when he had 1,000 fans. And there was, times where we were building presentation decks, at WME, like, who does he want to be? Why is he going to be different? And all these kind of questions. So I think it goes back to the first question, just knowing your core, knowing who you are, revealing the layers in an authentic way. and telling your audience, like keeping in communication, being consistent about that, and then that will stand the test of time. It just does. It's a formula that has worked, and it can work even more now because you've got social media. Back then, you know, it was kind of hard to do that. So yeah, hopefully that answers some of that question.
Amazing. I agree with everything you said. I think 2 points from me. One is one thing we teach on the artist development course. We do this thing where we encourage our students to like analyze different artist archetypes. So you'll see if you do some analysis of your favorite artist, like they tend to have, you can kind of describe them. So like they might be like a real studio nerd, or there's some that are more kind of almost a bit more fashion influencer, or some that have an amazing sense of humor and just push that. So I think it's useful just when you're making music, you'll often have reference tracks. You can do that same level of analysis with artists in the scene. So a lot of our students have found that quite useful. My second point is that when I'm approaching this with people, I think it's personality, not persona. So a persona is sort of potentially like a fake thing you project. And that's to your point where the inauthenticity will come through. But if you just look into your personality, I think the things that are probably interesting about you offline are probably the things that are going to be interesting to fans online. So it's reflecting on that. And then I'd just say do one thing and do it well at the start. So, for example, some artists that I really like, East End Dubs, is a really good minimal producer. At the start of his career, he just did really good studio videos, just did that kind of relentlessly and built up a fan base around that. And it really suited him as a person. Or equally, someone like Friend Within, it's an artist we work with, just got a really good sense of humour. So he just leans into that. He's got quite a dry sense of humour, so all his content is just being funny, basically, and that really works. So yeah, that's my bit of advice.
His content's jokes.
Yeah, it's really good.
Do you think that's a mistake a lot of new artists might make then, trying to do too much? Trying to do a bit of everything and trying to be influenced by all the different people they follow?
Yeah, 100%. Just do one thing really well. Like, you think of all the, when we're talking about any platforms, like we were saying earlier, like, when you're thinking about goals, like one platform really well, you're saying about finding your sound, but before you find that sound, you're going to make a load of bootlegs, and maybe that then your platform is SoundCloud and doing that really, really well and building an audience there first, because you can build an audience of just kind of trying out different ideas and putting things out there into the world and using that community, using a platform just specifically and learning everything about that platform. There's so many little things in each platform, like Instagram, there's tons of different surfaces, and if you use them all really, really well, then that is your home and that is your focus, and you make the content, you research the content. You're saying earlier about referencing. Reference everything. Like I reference like every piece of content, like pull down a piece, look at a piece of people's content that's really, really, really good and just go, right, what's happening at a second? What happens at 2 seconds? What happens at 3 seconds? Same as if you're a producer, like you start with a reference track, you start with a reference piece of content and just really understand what's happening on screen, what they're saying, what's happening. Is there a video happening? Is it like what's happening in the caption? Really just doing that really well. You're going to go forward much quicker because you're not trying to be everything to everyone, and you're not trying to be on every platform because you haven't got a Toolroom team that can just make tons of content on every platform. You are you, and you've only got so much time, and that time's got to be split between social and producing and DJing and what are your life, you know?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, a good example of that is obviously Fish 56 Octagon and he was very open with what he was doing as well, even sharing that. And it was just constant. He'd been doing social media for a long time, but what connected were those sharing music, which was his passion.
100%.
And he was very open about, like, I'm up at 6 o'clock in the morning doing this before I go to work.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, whilst eating my Weetabix, which wasn't even a gimmick to begin with. He was just eating his Weetabix in the morning.
I've got an hour before I've got to take the kids to school and do the school run. I can make 10 videos in that time, and that's all I can do. But those 10 videos now, he's got over 1 million followers on 2 platforms. And the just consistency, the content's so good though, it's so easy. And also, like, for the over 40s, it's a 40 middle-aged man doing it. It's not, it's not someone young. Well, everyone's beautiful, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not someone that's just young and hot.
But that was his, do you think that was his initial audience that really propelled him? Because it was people like me, the old vinyl he was digging out, and I was going, oh my God, I can't wait to see what the next one is, which has propelled him. So it's kind of knowing your audience.
There's a couple of things with his, like what he's choosing the vinyl, yes, and also what he's, like the hooks, like, original versus remix, and he's doing 2, and he's asking you which one you prefer, so then you're engaging with that piece of content, like which one out of these 4 do you want, like who remembers this track, but literally putting it on screen, who remembers this track, so then you're looking at it and going, even with the sound off, like if you think 80% of people watch reels with the sound off, then you're on screen, you're going, who remembers this track? Well, I want to see what it is straight away, and I'm in. That means you're hooked straight away, and you're watching that piece of content before, you might as well watch the rest of it.
I really enjoyed the human Shazam thing as well, where people would send him a message and hum a record, and he'd be guessing it for him.
Yeah, I love that.
This guy sounds amazing. I need to follow him. No, but what you're saying is so true, because he's interacting so much with his audience that he knows what they're looking for. So they know that he's being authentic because he is being there. He's present. It's not a bot. And people will, these days, especially with a generation as well, like Gen Z, they can spot inauthenticity a mile away, to be honest. And they are the ones that are leading in some ways. Like, people look to them in the advertising world and brands. They're kind of, the people that, or the generation that is spotting this. And it's not just them. It's like, when you want to buy something or consume something, especially something that you enjoy or something that you want to buy, you obviously want to be able to connect in a way because it's relatable. So having this man who's 45, as you're saying, doing his school runs, like, it's refreshing. And people want to see more refreshing. I think that's what I've noticed in the past years, especially since the pandemic. People just want relatable content, relatable artists. If you're struggling, whatever you're going through, we're probably right there with you. So just be your true self. As I said, it kind of goes back to that first question about your core of who you are.
It's also simple, it's really easy content to make. Like, and easy to replicate. Everyone here could replicate the same piece of content, but it would be completely different because the music choice would be different. Your records will be different to the ones he's choosing. The way you present it is different. You might do it in a different language first to what he's doing. You might be different, funnier. You might bring your own little thing to it that's different to his, and it becomes a whole different series. But it's replicatable, that you can just, it's you, and it's
a good
you.
formula.
Yeah, it's a formula. It's you and some music, and it equals a piece of content. So
let's talk about content, and for like new and emerging artists, what sort of content is working right now, and like how often should artists be posting?
Gosh, I think I was actually speaking to someone at our mixer last night about this. I think there's this pressure, there's this kind of issue now between, I think, that more DIY, organic, almost lo-fi, underproduced content is working more for a variety of reasons. I think people have got that kind of filter of marketing now. People don't want to see marketing; they want it real and authentic. To your point, but also you do also need to kind of look like an artist and be aspirational. So it's like, how do you make those two work? That's the challenge, and I think you do need to balance that. So I think for me, it's how do you find a balance between not overproducing, making it too slick, but also being real. So that's one challenge I've noticed for sure.
I guess, go back to what I was saying at the start, like what are the goals? So if you want to DJ loads, you want loads of DJ gigs, then you've got to turn up DJing as much as humanly possible. So you either go the kind of short form content, or you go long form and you go to YouTube and you do a mix every 2 weeks that's just really, really good. You will learn YouTube inside out. There's a couple on there that have done 45 mixes over 3.5 years. They've got 700,000 followers. They're not releasing any music. They're just doing DJ mixes, but they're playing at festivals. They've built a Patreon community that provides for them. They've got a membership thing. They've got merchandise. They've got all these little things that come off of just doing really good DJ mixes that are really cool.
One of our current students is in that process now, starting from nothing, but every single week, new mix, uploaded, YouTube, in their studio set
Consistency.
And it's consistency, and they've gone from 100 plays, and some of those now, I think they're on like, one of his videos was like 100K views, and that's it's probably about a year he's been doing that, but it's consistency and it's very good quality.
Yeah,
and
you don't even have to be on camera. There's a guy that I know that's he literally just makes mixes and puts a cool artwork with them, but the thumbnail's really bang on. It makes you click. Like, one of the rules of YouTube is if a person doesn't click, they don't listen. So you've got to make them click with the title and the thumbnail. So, but understanding that is you learning that platform and spending time on that platform.
That's interesting you said that as well, because I'll attempt the word, but the authenticity that we're talking about, not everyone is that comfortable behind camera and may feel a bit like unauthentic and fake if they're trying too hard.
But some of his mixes have got 700, 800,000 plays, And it's just, again, him being a DJ, he's putting out the world, he's built an email database off of it that then when he actually releases music, he can drop his own tracks and his own mixes, and it kind of propels his tracks forward. He talks to his community in his email database, and literally he just uses email, YouTube, and a little bit of Instagram, but that's it. Like, it's just so focused on one platform and one goal.
Yeah, and YouTube Shorts are really great as well. They're like really underused, I think, platform, because I think YouTube just push them through the algorithm so much because they're probably threatened by TikTok and everything. So they're really pushing short. So it's a really interesting way to get views quickly, is that.
Plus, people have really short attention spans just coming from the branding world and creating a lot of content every day for our channels with our video producer. We know that people tap out very quickly. So just also keep that in mind if you are an artist and you are wanting to create something. Like, I think brevity is key.
Like 1.6
being concise.
seconds, I think it is.
Yeah, it's so short when you think about it, but it's because we're in like a world that's just, we're consuming content so much, and there's this like saturation, and we're getting almost sick of it. So you have to kind of stand out. And that is a question I think we'll continue to keep having on these kind of panels, like what is the best thing to do for an artist? But I would say, yes, absolutely the consistency, keeping it concise and short, and also just trying to do something a little bit different to what is out there, because that will make you stand out for sure as well.
So how often do we think people should be posting? Like minimum?
Every hour, every day. I'm just kidding.
I work on this rule that what's healthy for you. Like, if one a week is super healthy and you can do that, you can make it, and it's the best piece of content you can make, one a week, every week, same day, you're going to grow. If then you sort of learn that platform a little bit, you learn the process of making the content, and then it becomes a little bit easier. Like when you're making music, it gets a bit easier. It kind of, you get some idea, you get kind of ways of working and flows, and it becomes a bit quicker. Same with content. Then you go to 2 a week, and then you go to 3 a week, and then you get up to like 30 or 40 a week, and then you're really flying. But essentially, just whatever's comfortable and easy, like whatever's healthy. But also, if you've got goals of you want to go really, really hard, then take 6 months and go, right, I'm going to go hard, and let's see the results at the end.
Okay, and so then, beyond like how often you post, let's go deeper into the content and talk a little bit about algorithms now, a word that gets thrown around a lot, and trying to understand that as well. So balancing the type of content that you put out, like new artists, if you want to be authentic, if you want to reflect who you are as an artist, against thinking about some of your content that's like, what can I post that's going to work within the algorithm as well? Do you need to merge the two?
What do people like watching? Like, that's all you need to think about.
Cats.
What do people like? How do you, what are my content? Like, people throw content out there and they'll broadcast content, and then they'll go, it'll get no views, and people don't want to watch that content. So it's, what do people want to watch? And that's all algorithm is. They're going to show it to some people, and then if people go, I like this, I'm into this, I like this DJ, I like this content, then it gets shown to more. So thinking like, what do people want to watch? Not what I want to put out there, but what are people going to enjoy? What are people going to be entertained by? And what do I want to make? And then you go back to that kind of reference phase, like, I've seen these 10 artists that are doing really great content. I know I can make this piece of content that sort of fits in with and it fits in with what I want to be.
Yeah.
I can do that. And I quite enjoyed, I enjoyed watching it as a person. Like, I enjoyed watching their piece of content. So it must be enjoyable. So, okay, that's a good format. I'll make a ton of that and see what happens. And then you haven't got to worry about whether algorithm likes it or whether what's right for algorithm. You're just working out what's right for people.
Definitely. Also, to add to that, I guess, understanding algorithms is just also understanding human attention spans.
Yeah.
Which are short, as we said. So when you think of doing your reels on Instagram, it's getting that hook in quick. So which can be hard, especially if you're particularly a music producer and you're used to kind of delicately writing a track and the payoff is towards the end. It's different. You've got to flip it and be straight in with a hook on reels.
Or just have the visual hook at the start. The hook could not have to be the track or the piece of video. The hook could be the visual hook on the screen.
True.
The hook, your track comes at the end. Well, that's a secondary hook then. Your first hook is I heard this track made it go off at 3 a.m. And then I'm like, what track made it go off at 3 a.m.? Already you're thinking, what went off at 3 a.m.? Like, okay, I want to see what happens. And then you've got this secondary hook later on that is the moment of your track. but you've hooked them already on screen.
So is that the kind of the trend now, like edited content where you're getting that intro and then into the detail?
It can just be words on screen. It can just be literally like the word on screen, so you're reading it without the sound on. I said 80% of people read it off with the sound off. Like if you're lying in bed with the sound off, like, okay, this track went off at 3 a.m. Okay.
Yeah.
Sound on.
The hook,
I'm
reel
in.
them in.
Yeah. And then secondly, I'd say that it's about, generally, with algorithms, the platform wants to keep you on the platform. So that's where carousels are becoming quite good for engagement, because you're kind of swiping across them at your own time and leisure. So it keeps you trapped on there, so the algorithm likes that. So good storytelling through carousels. But in general, like, you can get almost inhibited in your creativity if you worry too much about understanding algorithms. I think one way sometimes we do it at Toolroom is like, you know, when you approach a DJ set, you're doing one for me, one for you. So when you're doing posts, maybe do one where you're like not worried about it and just be creative and just be yourself. And the other one, maybe you're a little bit more analytical and think about it. So that's one bit of advice.
The other thing with if we're thinking about Instagram now, like the Instagram algorithm is like TikTok now, where if you look at your insights, 50% of your followers might see your content, but 50% are new people. So if a new person sees that piece of content, are they going to want to watch it because they don't know who you are or anything about you? So whereas a fan will go in and go, oh, I like that person, I've already seen them. Does the content work for both sides of new potential fans and new and current fans? Because some content will work for that, and some content will just resonate with both, and then you're going to pick up loads of new fans and followers.
So that's interesting, talking about that, like fans, followers, and like relationships. You know, so when you're a new emerging artist, like how do you sort of build on that, like real relationships with early fans, not just about being. I think sometimes we obsess about the numbers of the followers and worry that we might only have 50, 100, you know, and it's like trying to get those numbers up compared to what real fans are.
Yeah, but how many people are in this room right now? Like, is there 50 people in here?
Yeah.
Right, so if you're DJing to this amount of people, would you be happy? Well, if your piece of content went to this amount of people,
Yeah.
like if this amount of people saw it and then they all shared it with their mates, are you happy with that? Well, yeah, of course I am. Look, there's loads of people here. It's wicked.
Yeah. Great answer.
I was going to say also, speaking of channels, like I've noticed that Discord, for like I saw in the pandemic in real time an artist, Huni, who is not, you know, mainstream commercial. Like he lives in Berlin with his family. He's a fantastic DJ, real selector. Not someone, kind of goes on and off of social media, but is truly a master in his craft. And, you know, which you don't always have to be on social media to make it. There's a lot of DJs that don't, that are really at the top, that are incredible, and they are DJs, so don't think that you always need social media as well. But in the pandemic, he really got involved and built a community called Life Tones through Discord. And during my time at Beatport also, we were quite active in Discord, and I felt that he was literally always chatting in there with everybody. And we all, like, there's a group of us now that actually became friends with him after that. And so we've had dinners together, and, you know, he sends, like, he was sending personalized emails to, you know, people that were invested. And I just felt that was a great way. Yes, sure, he's a bit more established, but I think really early on in your career, like there's great platforms now like Discord where you can start bunch of different threads about books and relationships and mental health and all these. I mean, there were literally like 12 channels in there, and you build a great community, and then people are invested, and then they want to come back. And I saw that happen in real time, and, you know, he's still connected with people. So that's just great that an artist gave that much. I'm not saying Calvin Harris is going to do this, you know, or anything like that, but like I'm seeing more and more people use Discord, and I do think it's a phenomenal platform if you're an artist and you really want to build, and you're seeing that you're getting a little bit more of a following. I feel like that's really a strong place right now.
Are other platforms that you guys recommend as well?
We have a Discord.
I love it.
We have a Discord server. I've had it for 4 years. We've got 3,500 people in there.
Nice.
All producers. Every Monday and Wednesday we have a demo feedback from in our Discord. I live streamed from my shed up until last week. And my Discord is all shed heads. We have a shed head day once a year when it's kind of we drop merch for them.
I'm privileged to have a shed head T-shirt.
You are
myself.
you are a
Yeah,
shed head.
I do
Yeah.
have one.
Expecting mine soon.
And we have health. We have like our wins of the week. We have goals of the week. We have a health section. There's running sections for those that run. And
So Discords can be really, really helpful.
yeah,
Powerful, yeah.
but the other one that's like WhatsApp groups. Like literally, just make a WhatsApp group with 50 people, and you've got something powerful. Like you drop your new track and go, can we all support each other? Like WhatsApp groups are so underrated. Like some of the best parties in Ibiza right now are the ones that are literally organised by WhatsApp groups, and not the big clubs, but the ones that are really secret. And
Maybe that's a secret. You shouldn't be revealing. I'm just kidding.
You've got to be in a certain WhatsApp group to get to the party. They're the underground. Like that is the underground, not the Ushuaias and the bottles and everything. Like the WhatsApp groups are killer. Like if you add a WhatsApp group to like a SoundCloud, for instance, and you start dropping edits, but you've got this WhatsApp group of people where we're all sharing our edits, then it's just going to start growing those edits really, really quickly.
Yeah, totally. We have this with a lot of our students at the academy, when they finish courses, and we really encourage them to build that network and grow. I know some of you guys out here have got that now with WhatsApp groups, and it's awesome to see. And you mentioned YouTube Shorts as well, so there are other platforms out there, aren't there?
Yeah, I think just it's how you frame success as a new artist. I think you can get too caught up on this big number, but the engagement actually is more important, really. And especially when you consider how the music platforms are working now. So like on Spotify, one save on a track is worth a lot more than 30 passive listens in terms of the algorithm. So if you've got like a handful of people that absolutely love you and will save your music, that's a lot more powerful than just big numbers of people that don't care that much. And similarly for Beatport, it's about like the velocity of your orders at the start is what's going to determine your chart position. So a more engaged fan base is what is going to move the needle for you musically. And I think it's more achievable as well. It seems like, trying to find 100,000 fans feels quite daunting, doesn't it? But actually trying to find 50 people that really love you, that is achievable and probably more powerful.
I was going to say, even from like a brand's perspective as well, brands also are kind of gravitating more towards micro and nano influencers because they're so engaged. And I've worked with an artist who's a dear friend too, Nix, who runs Black Artist Database, and she has such a loyal fan and community. It's not about having 100,000 likes anymore. Actually, brands really just want to connect with artists that are very engaged. So I completely agree with everything you just said.
Super fans.
Yeah, so it's better to have, like you said, 10,000 to 15,000 followers. Give them something on a more consistent basis and really stay true to who you are rather than trying to get a lot of fans where you're not really engaged. Brands can see right through that. Gen Z can see right through that. Yeah. People can see right through that. But it was a bit different about 10 years ago. That's what brands did want, actually. So yeah, it's shifted and it's better for smaller and rising artists now.
The other thing is just put on events. Like again, 50 people in a room, it's a party. Like, can you put on your own event? And it doesn't need to be in a club now. Like some great events that are not in clubs.
Shoot the content.
Coffee houses, chicken shops. Like they're doing parties in random places in the day, and go and shoot your own content. Go and put your own party on. Get 50 people to it.
Yeah, it's true. Fish and chip shop.
And see how hard it is to get 50 people to a place. That's the fun thing. I mean, but then also you create your own content, you make your own thing, you make your own scene essentially.
And then just a couple of tips within social about how you get that like more sort of lean in audience. Like I think we were saying earlier about like inviting people to almost collaborate with you, like posting things like, should I have this artwork or this artwork, or what do you think of this bass line? So inviting people to get involved. Also like little moments of friction in social media. By that I mean, if you're asking an audience to do something like comment, you're good at this, like when you do educational content and it's like comment X to get my new book, or James Hype does this very well actually, like he requests you to do something like comment to get a pre-order. It feels like it's a bit of friction, it's a bit more work for me, but actually that extra bit of work makes me feel invested. So that's how you get a bit more of a closer relationship, by asking them to do something. Yeah,
but also that has some little payoffs as well. Like I do it because I use a bot called ManyChat, and essentially when you comment with that word, the bot responds in a conversation. But what happens with that conversation is you start having a conversation in DMs, and the way stories works and content works within Instagram, that if you're having a DM and a conversation, then you're friends with that person. The two of you are mates, essentially, to Instagram. And therefore, friends want to see each other's content, and friends want to see more of each other's content. So by having that, by using those bots, and by really generating those moments where they have to respond, and you're responding back to them, essentially you're becoming friends on Instagram, which means then your next pieces of content goes out to a much wider audience because your mates are all seeing it more often. And then that's going to then, if you're using another bot to do another thing, then it's, again, growing that audience and growing that reach because you've started those conversations in DMs.
So it sounds like just what's just as important as actually thinking about, okay, I'll post today, every Friday, is also having some time to communicate with your followers, that you're actually building up and putting some consistency into that as well.
Oh yeah, like not posting and ghosting, like just literally like, I'm going to post, it's so bad, just go in and start a conversation, start being part of a community. Like if you want to, I always think like if you want to release, say if you want to release with Toolroom, like I'd go and be part of your community. I'd literally would set your notifications for the record label so I can see every post, and I'd be first in that post, I'd be commenting on everything, I'd be really 100%. Engaged, and just really...
We see that.
Really, what?
We see that.
We see you there, Grahame.
I know, you know I am. and just like, but you see that as well. You start seeing the same people top up, and you start seeing, and then when they send that demo in, you already know that person.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know that because they're already in your community.
Try and build a relationship. You know, I mean, it's a small thing, but even with authenticity, I've had people comment on sometimes when I've shared something personal, and like, oh, I've got an interest in that. For instance, I'm into like old school VWs, and they share something with me on that, like an old camper van, and I'm like, oh, and we start chatting away. And then a few months later, there's another comment, and then it's like, oh, I've got something to listen to, and I'm probably more inclined to go, oh yeah, I'll check it out. There's a relationship.
Just think about if you're the person on the other end, like you would want to have like the relationship or be connected to, like it's nice to have someone talking to you in real time. Like I would want that. That's what I look for when I'm, well, I mean, obviously there's so many, you know, artists and influencers, content creators, celebrities that we're fans of. It doesn't mean that we get to interact with them or that we're going to be able to. But the ones that do, you know, comment or like back or, you know, do respond to DMs, right? Like they really stand out. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying with my friend Hooney, like, you know, that real life relationship building means a lot to people. They're investing in you as an artist, right? And so to build that from the beginning up, like Avicii was very good at doing stuff like this, Deadmau5, artists like that. They're building that community from the beginning and really giving them what they need, like newsletters, emails, comments, DMs, you know? So it can be a lot to feel that you have to put yourself out there. So obviously it's not for everybody, but it's a big payoff.
But there are ways to do it where you're not, like if you're, like we were saying earlier, there are ways if you don't want to be the face, you can be, there are ways to hide behind it and just not be the face but still get the content. The other thing I was just thinking is, oh no, it's gone, Karen, sorry. I lost it, the thought went.
No, sorry, I was actually looking.
We could go on about this
because I was thinking we can go on about this, and I was just wondering if there's anyone who had any questions about what we've been speaking about so far that would like, who's brave enough to ask a question here. Don't feel shy. Yeah, go for it. Take the mic.
Thanks, Pete. Yeah, thanks for all the good advice. One question is important for me. You said like commenting on Instagram, do it often so you see us. But I think like when you have a big label, there are different teams, like a marketing team, a social media team. And is it really like that the A&R team sees also the Instagram comments, or is it only the advertisement social media team?
Really good question. I can only speak for Toolroom, but our A&Rs are so invested in our marketing as well because they're looking at how their tracks are performing on social. It's one of the metrics for how we'd consider success or how we would understand how a track's shaping up. We'd be looking at comments, and they're all fed back anyway. And these teams are also smaller than you think. Like, you know, maybe in your heads, Toolroom is, you know, a massive brand, but actually it's quite a small team compared to other businesses of its sort of impact, if that makes sense. So there's only, you know, 15, 20 of us in a room, you know, going over this. So, and we all care so much that, yeah, we totally see it, and we love it when people show that support because we're all human. It still means something to us that someone would give good feedback. So yeah, we totally see it.
Yeah, you'll find a lot of the label, like there's 4 of us. for the whole company, and we see everything. And you see lots of other labels, like there'll be 2 people in a label, and they'll see everything and you'll think some of the like you say, the biggest labels, they'll only be small numbers, and they will see stuff.
Yeah, good question though. Anyone else have another question at all? Yep, just at the back there.
Yes. Hello. Yeah, thank you. Really interesting. I just have a question regarding like the type of content, because I DJ on events that they try to be like cultural, like and less like commercial. I mean, it is of course commercial, right? But you know, the marketing is different. And I think like if I would do content like, I don't know, like top 5 Beatport tracks or whatever, it would close more doors for me than it would open. So because I think like the bookers that book me, they really don't like this kind of content. So what advice would you like give me, or like, yeah?
I guess with that, like I've got a student like that where they play these techno places and you're not allowed to make content, and literally we were sitting there like, what can we make? Like, can you make content before? Probably. Like, we also then started digging into him, and he likes doing hand drawings, and we were like, well, can you not just do like some random hand drawings of like sketches of what the night was like, and that can be your content, and you'll just go home, you'll make some sketches about, you know, playing, and it was quite fun, and it's like, but it's just what, like, once you start digging into it and spending some time with that person going, we didn't even know that happened. He was like, a little bit later, he was like, oh, I like doing these drawings. And we're like, why don't you do that as your content? Like, why don't you just replicate what the night was like in little pencil sketches? Because then that's it's quite cool, it's quite different, and it's, you know, it gets around that you can't film in the club sort of thing. So again, like, also go back to the reference, like, there's people in that lane that are in that lane that they are booking. What are they doing? What content works for them, and what can you do that you can use from theirs? Like, there's a great book called Steal Like an Artist. Essentially, go and read that, because it's
Austin Kleon.
Yeah, Austin Kleon. Like, essentially, everything is stolen. Everything is stolen. Like, but you're just taking your way and making it yours. So reference everything.
Yeah, totally. Don't try and fit into a more mainstream style content if it's not that world you're trying to be. Think about what goes on in those events and what else you can talk about, other artists, the music, the culture, the history. You could become the spokesperson for that culture through what you spread and talk about and speak about.
Yeah, I've seen content where you're not allowed, where there's no cameras in the phone, and someone's put up 5 red square pictures on their Instagram feed, and they're like, this is all the photos I took last night. Fabric doesn't allow cameras, and you literally swipe through 5 red squares, because that's the red tape that they put on your camera. And then they just wrote a whole thing in the caption, like, this is what happened, I had this and I played these records, and it was cool, and it was like, you know.
I was going to say also, yeah, it kind of goes back to like the beginning when we talked about who you are and asking those questions to yourself and what you want to put out there to the world. Also, I was going to say, you know, I have a lot of friends very similar to you, some who are very successful in this industry and some who are on the rise. And I would say collaborating with like radio stations like Refuge Worldwide or NTS, if you can, you know, those are still like grassroots, and like there's still companies or still organizations that want to work with rising artists and doing a mix and putting it out. That's a cool way to get recognition. So mixes, radio shows, like radio is big, radio is important. And, you know, that is cool and credible. I live in Berlin. I have a lot of friends that have radio shows on Refuge that really didn't have, you know, much of a career. And now they're, because of, you know, amazing radio stations like Refuge with great curators who take a chance on people, they are playing great gigs, underground gigs, you know, culturally cool gigs, you know, that are not as commercial. So I'm very big on radio. I think it's important.
People do that with our radio. So we have a radio station, and people do that with ours. They have their own show on our own station, and essentially they curate their own show. They use it to get more gigs. They use it to kind of connect with artists that they want to connect with through the content they're putting out. They make it their own. It's their space, but essentially they're tied to a bigger brand because they're using our platform to essentially give themselves content.
I would say also someone like Honey Dijon, sorry, we'll wrap it up. This question after that. She's someone who's really walked a grey line between playing gigs at Berghain and being cool and staying true to, like, everything goes back to that first question, who you are and what you're about and what you care about. And also is playing big festivals. So I love her social media. It's just incredible. And she's one of those people that just really does quite a lot. So I would look to people like that. I'm not saying that you have to aspire to be these people, of course, but, you know, following careers and the trajectory of some of these people is definitely good because, you know, there are people like that that have kind of done both.
Yeah, the final, sorry, one thought. The final one is look outside of artists and DJs. Look at other things. Like, I look at football content and see what they're posting and see, like, what works in that world.
Yeah, what parallels.
What parallels? What can I pull? What contents? How they laying it up? Or I look at other things like, you know, fashion and look at other influences of content and see, again, reference from different angles. Because there's always a way to do it. It's out there. You know, just spend a bit of time reference.
Awesome stuff. I hope that helped answer your question.
Very much, thank you.
Cool, no worries. So that's the time we've got wrapped up for this one. So can we have a huge thank you for our panellists? 'Cause I think that's been really informative. Thank you so much. Amazing stuff. So don't go anywhere, because we are literally going to roll straight into a live Q&A now with Gernot Müller from Voltage Circus and the legends that are Panpot as well, all right, which will be really insightful. So very quick changeover, and we'll go on to that one, all right? Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Pete.